The session that I am going to moderate is Together We Can. The past 9 months were terrible. We have never seen this kind of despair before. But there were always amazing stances of hope, and also the people who brought hope for communities, for the people, for the country. And there were lessons that could help us all fail for the future. With me today are Mr. Atul Satija, the founder and CEO of The Nudge, and also the founder of Give India. With me again is Mr. Prashant Prakash, is the chairperson of Vision Group of Startups and also the founding partner of Excel Partners India. Ms. Nagma Mula, she has driven a lot of collaborative efforts in philanthropic domain. She is the president and CEO of Little Gift Foundation. And last but not least, Mr. Ashish Dhawan, who will be joining in a moment, is a venture capitalist, philanthropist, founder chairperson of Central Square Foundation, and also founder chairperson of Ashoka University. We saw despair, we saw suffering of humanity for the past 9 months. We have some greatest minds and amazing people with us who have raised hope for all of us. That is why we thought we should brought everyone. I stand corrected, Atul. Venkat was founder of Give India. While there were many people who served within their limits, these four amazing people brought the flock together to serve the humanities, serve those, help those affected by the pandemic. To start with, I would like to invite Mr. Prashant Prakash to talk about his journey as someone who brought this VC and startup community together to launch ACT grant along with other people, as to what his journey been, what has been the achievements and learnings for all of us. Over to you, Prashant.
Thank you for having me here, and it's great to share the learnings that we have been through with the response that the entrepreneurial community and the investors have done in their response to the pandemic. So this is around the time of the lockdown. We saw a small group of about 1,000 entrepreneurs come together on a Telegram group. And that's when we saw the need for small amounts of capital, which could be catalytic in helping the ideas these entrepreneurs had, these teams had in fighting the pandemic. So a few of us investors came together along with the broader investment banking ecosystem, private equity funds, and other stakeholders of the startup ecosystem to launch a 100 crore grant fund. We got tremendous response, and we partnered with folks like Atul here from Give India and Nudge, and we were able to put together this fund in an amazing short period of 3 to 4 weeks. Once we had the fund in place, we had the power of the entire analysts and the other partners of the startup ecosystem to evaluate these solutions and see the ability of these solutions to quickly tackle some of the challenges from the pandemic. ACT funded 50 such startups um, over the 6 to 9 month period, and we were able to impact 50 to overreach in across our programs 50 to 100 million people in our country, and save many lives. So this was a unique effort where you could bring together capital, technology, and innovation, which was here to employed largely in the in the commercial sector, quickly leverage those solutions and provide impact in the in this case the health sector. So I think it's been a great journey, and we've had multiple learnings which I can talk about later.
Okay. Nagma, you, I'm really excited to know more about your Grow Fund, which, which is, which came out of an ingenious idea of serving the NGOs in this testing times, looking at the fact that most of the money has gone to PM Care, and lots of people from the civil society sector have lost their jobs. How did this come? And also, can you please talk about your support to Migrants
Yeah.
Resilience Collaborative,
Yeah.
and also your experience of building and nurturing and managing collaboratives?
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you, Apresh. Thank you so much for inviting me and for having a conversation that is so important. See, I believe that the pandemic has actually been a stress test for all of us. So like we are human beings, and any part of our body that is weaker than the other, that is stressed when any kind of external stress is put. The pandemic has been that, and where systems have been weak, they broke. Edelgift since 2015 has been a multi-stakeholder collaborative sort of platform. Our first platform started with education, then women, and we really believe that the problems that we are all grappling with in the development sector cannot be solved by Edelgift alone or anyone alone. I mean, it will need participation. People have to come together, playing on the strengths. So actually, if I should address the Migrant Resilience Collaborative first, that when the pandemic struck, and we saw that there was so much of brilliant relief work that was happening. NGOs had responded overnight. Existing systems had really been adapted to cater to the requirement of the last mile, really, people starving and unable to reach homes. And at that time, we saw such brilliant initiatives at the grassroots that were going on, that actually renewed our faith in what India and the development sector in India stand for. And in that time, we also saw that the struggles of limited budgets, the struggles of people on ground, the struggles of migrants that was going on. Jan Sahas was one of those NGOs that not only adapted quickly, but also was able to mobilize a network of grassroots NGOs that came together to first respond with providing relief to migrants, then also look at how they can reach their destination, how they should respond at destination, what is happening at source. And like all collaboratives, collaboratives cannot only happen because everybody likes each other. Collaboratives happen when different stakeholders come together with different strengths. Jan Saha's strength is the grassroots, their understanding of labor, their understanding of labor laws, their networks. Edelgift's strength is managing multiple stakeholders, talking to different, positioning the work, being able to monitor very well. And we both came together and this happened. The Migrant Resilience Collaborative is looking to work with 10 million migrant workers over the next 3 to 5 years to ensure that they are connected to social security and that they are able to come back with dignity into jobs that are provided for them. And we are very, very excited with the beginning. Not only have the funding community been extremely proactive and extremely supportive of this, but the grassroots have been so responsive. And within a matter of four months, we've been able to actually begin almost 72 centers in different states that have begun the process of registering or enabling migrants to register. So this is one strong example of how a collaborative can succeed when people come with their strengths and not to take over somebody else's job. We are all part of the same system and we all have different strengths. And that is going on. Edelgive is very committed to this, and so are the many fantastic partners, whether it's corporate representation from Godrej, and the kind or institutional representation that comes, foundation representations that are there, or individuals that are joining. We have very good governance and it's going on fine. So that's, and it's there, it's going to move on autopilot, and we will be constantly measuring. To come to the last part of your question is the Grow Fund, which we are really putting together as a response to the stress that the development sector has undergone, where we're saying the whole pulse on the whole tragedy was managed by grassroots NGOs, who everyone doesn't get visibility, is not good at pitching. They may be great at working. Can we really look for 100 great initiatives and extend support to them that is more flexible, that is more empathetic, that really looks at their organizations for over the next 2 years? And that's the next big idea that we are floating, and I'm very happy to elaborate on that as well going forward.
Coming back to the hero during COVID times, Atul Satija, everyone has actually looked up to him and talked to him and learned from him about how to build a corpus and also support the smaller to bigger NGOs or non-profits. Atul, how has your journey been during the COVID times? What have you learned and what have your achievements been? I'm sure everyone knows about it, but let us hear from you.
So, Presh, firstly, thanks so much for having me here. It's great to be speaking with such an esteemed panel. See, like Nagma said, COVID was a very unprecedented experience for everybody globally, and nobody was prepared for it. I remembered on the 22nd of March, a couple of days just before the lockdown, it was a Sunday, and I should give the credit where it is due. Actually, Venkat pinged me and Milap and Keto and everyone saying, guys, why don't we start a fundraiser for migrants? There is so much happening. And I think by Sunday evening, the fundraisers on the social media platforms, the crowdfunding platforms had started. I'm talking 22nd March. We realized that within 2.5, 3 days, 1 crore was raised, which was the fastest ever 1 crore you would see in any crowdfunding campaign. And it was not like an urgent health operation or a surgery need for someone. Obviously, as the lockdown started, we were starting to see the need coming from all walks of the society, and various non-profits that we have on our platform at Give India started reaching out as well. I think what we realize is that given the volume of inbound requests and calls coming in, we realize that we ourselves won't have the resources or the time and bandwidth to gather everything. So we decided that we'll need to properly organize the efforts, given it is going to be an ongoing effort, not of days and weeks, but of months. It was starting to be visible by the middle of towards the end of March. So we announced the India COVID Response Fund in a manner that it gives confidence to all stakeholders that the fund will be managed well. We had a very independent steering committee with Govind Iyer, who's one of our board members at Give India, Ingrid from CSIP, and Mr. Shailesh Haribhakti, who's on the board of many organizations and runs a very well-respected chartered accountancy practice as well. So we had an independent steering committee, we had an advisory board to give us the strategy and the direction for the fund. And then we started reaching out to all the partners to raise the money. I think unlike Give India's muscles from the past, where we are used to raising money from retail donors, we realized that retail donors, as much as they can give, they won't be able to fulfill the need on the ground, and all of us collectively couldn't, right? So we had to open up everything. So after a very long time, Give India again started reaching out to HNIs, UHNIs, corporates, and foundations as well. And actually, somebody from Gates Foundation nudged us to consider doing a fund, and we thought that was a great idea, and that's how this idea of creating a structured fund with all donor segments came about. I think it was an insanely high intensity operation, so to say, of a couple of months. And I'm sure for many people on this call, CSR guys, foundations, everybody was working crazy during that time. And so were we. We got a batch of 15-20 people from ISB graduates who got offers, but they couldn't join because it was April, it was COVID. So they started working pro bono with us. A lot of our board members almost joined as employees of Give India and started giving 12 hours a day. A lot of our advisory board members started making calls. And I'm very happy that, COVID, like Nagma also said, right? Because the times were such, everybody was just thinking society for a change and not economy. And that was very important, where everybody is thinking India and Indians and not generally sort of, the numbers and the metrics. And it was easier for us to go to people and say, look, can you help? And everybody would said yes. Over the last 5-6 months of work since COVID started, we were able to raise about 220 crores. 200 plus crores of that got dispersed much faster. And now we are going through the second round of funding to the constituents that are needing more help. Give India ended up supporting about 56 lakh people with 250 NGOs that we partnered with across the country in 113 plus towns and cities, out of which 5.5 lakh people got just cash transfers in their bank accounts because they didn't have money to buy the meals for the family or the other emergency needs in the the family side. We had dry ration kits, sanitation kits, 100 plus ambulances, tens of lakhs of PPE kits, face masks, face shields. We had mobile screening vans running in Bombay in many of the high density slums where cases were shooting up, and things like that. So it was a very intense effort. I think overall, more than the work on the ground, I see that it was actually a giving collective, which as Give India we had not done in the past. And it's the giving collective where we had 3.5 lakh individual donors who came and gave anywhere from 50 rupees all the way to 5 crores. We had 70 plus corporate partners, 25 plus brands, 10 plus platform partners like PhonePe, Google Pay, and partners like that, and 15 plus foundations, from Gates Foundation to Omidya to Nilekani's to MacArthur to Dell Foundation to so many others. It was mind blowing on how quickly people were coming together to just, and most of pretty much what we did as Give India was to say that we need help. We were just representing the need that we were hearing on the ground, and we saw that it was all coming through very quickly. So that was on the Give India side. I should also highlight that last year has been, even from the nudge, had very unique and different. As an operating NGO working on the ground with your heads down, trying to do whatever programs you run. And all of that was disrupted. All of our Gurukuls got shut down that we painstakingly built over the last 5 years. We couldn't run any Gurukul. So we look back and we are reflecting on, how do we sort of go forward. And on the collaboration side, as a theme for this topic, there are 2 more initiatives that we started. Give India was more a giving collective where we got support from a lot of corporate partners and foundations and HNIs, and we distributed and worked with 250 plus NGOs on the ground. One of the unique things we started last year, which is a very interesting experiment for development sector to learn from, and I'm very curious to see what learnings it brings, is collective action. Collective action has not been experimented very deeply in India yet, but it's a concept that's gaining traction worldwide. where different partners come together with very different muscles. And different muscles are deployed to solve different pieces of the puzzle, but collectively it's solving a singular problem. So H&M Foundation was looking for a partner last year to launch a collective action project. And we are glad that they chose us as a backbone partner. We are running a $11 million, about 85 crore project for next 3 years, 3 to 5 years, where we are working with the waste pickers community in Bangalore, informal waste pickers. It's about 22,500 people in Bangalore who do this, plus their families. So it's about lakh plus people. We are working with them with 7 or 8 different partners with very, very different skill set. BBC Media Action, LabourNet, CARE, Save the Children, Hasiru Dala, and others, who all are looking at different aspects of the life of the waste pickers, whether it is social protection, education of their kids, exit opportunities, skilling opportunities, and things like that. That's the second thing we're doing. And the last one to very briefly touch upon is something we are starting in UP, which is actually marrying both the Give India collective giving and this H&M Samuhika Shakti, as it is called, which is a collective action. So we're trying an experiment where we experiment with collective giving and collective action together in UP. It's called Asha Kiran, the Hope Project. We'll be sharing that more about that in the next month or so.
Lovely. Prashant, now with ACT Grant, I've heard that you're coming out with the ACT Grants 2.0, where you're going to focus on education, environment, and other areas. Can you touch upon your future plans?
Yeah, Prish, what we learned from our Act 1.0, which was created to fight the pandemic, is like Atul and Nagma have mentioned, the power of the collective. And in this case, I think ACT was a unique organization of, of, of folks in a particular sector. So there have been previously other industry organizations that have been created, which had CSR uh, kind of initiatives as a byproduct of the overall, whether it's NASCOM or CII and all these. But I think ACT was unique, as in the collective came together with the single mission of providing societal impact. So it was, I think, the first time in India where people across the venture, in this case startups, the venture community, and the investment bankers, created an organization with just this mission. So so the realization was that something unique has happened here. So how do we leverage this unique byproduct of coming together for the pandemic for multiple verticals that still need a lot of action in our country, whether it's education, environment, livelihoods, and so on. And the learnings that have also been realized are largely three. One, the ability of the network effect, which largely all our entrepreneurs leverage in their businesses, is something that can, the same network concept of network effect can be brought into the social sector. And I think Atul and Nagma have also alluded a little bit to that, right? So how do you bring this effect of impact, inspiring others, and getting more collective action? So that is one big learning that we think we would like to leverage for multiple verticals. Second is the idea of technology, which was created for mainstream commercial applications. Can this innovation, rather than creating grounds up technology for the impact sector, can you repurpose technology that was created, platforms that were created to serve millions of people in commercial applications? Can you quickly redeploy them for the impact sector? So that we learned a lot about how to do that from the pandemic, and we want to now leverage that same learning for other verticals. And finally, the third, and I think the most important learning, is how do you work with the government, and what are the mechanisms where that you can deploy of the same collaboration to get your platforms to accelerate much faster through collaborative action with the government. Uh, I think a combination of these three we want to leverage for these other verticals. And I think in general, innovation, eh, uh, the grant giving for innovation is still a large white space in the country. And I think there's no better folks than the people who are involved in the startup ecosystem, people who are involved in the venture ecosystem, who can understand and play a role in applying innovation to these large societal areas that are still largely unsolved in our country. And so we have folks like Ashish, who are Ashish Dhawan, who are leading the vertical in ACT in the education area. I'm taking a lead with along with GV, my colleague from Sequoia, in the environmental area, and similarly, there are other verticals that may come up.
Wonderful. Um, Nagma, your experience in collaborative action, and what are your future plans with regard to other areas that you are going to venture?
So, like I briefly alluded to it, Apresh, our experience in collaboratives, we've been, like I said, we are now in our sixth collaborative, and all of them are running parallelly. There are teams that are dedicated to ensuring that they're meeting their mission and that we're managing these stakeholders also. And that's a part of a very thoughtful design that we had in 2014, that the way forward should be collaborative. I mean, it's not necessary that everybody collaborates, people have their own priorities, but we thought that doing things together made more sense. And we are committed to ensuring that there is enough infrastructure for collaborative, which means everything from the exciting thing, that what is happening in the field that meets the common purpose, like an MRC. How do you ensure these people get back into productive jobs? But also the more boring part of, or the more the routine part of collaborative, everything from good governance, ensuring transparency, ensuring every stakeholder understands what is happening and there is common value that is being generated. So Edelgive has a very, inbuilt strength now, team wise as well as systems wise, to ensure that we can manage multiple collaboratives at the same time. And that's why our ability to immediately respond and create another one. It has been a very, very exciting journey so far. When we are thinking of how we will take this forward, the Grow is a very big example, because we are now thinking 100 NGOs together. We're thinking how many people can join us in this venture. And we're also giving it a limited time within which we want some number of things to happen. And that is for us very exciting. The way forward for Edelgive is really this: let's play on our strengths, let's join hands with equally strong people in different domains, let's identify issue by issue and move forward collaboratively. I think that is it's very, very clear for us. This is how we will operate. And right from our beginning, since 2008, we have been a pan-India operator. We started with 12 states. We are still now in more than 15 states. We have our coverage, and through Grow we are also going to ensure that there is movement into those states where we have not been present yet. So yes, we will do more of the same, learning a lot from the lessons that have been taught to us. And in the immediate future, whereas MRC and Grow are going to be two very important facts for us, but in the long term also, partnerships is the way, collaboration is the way for us.
Good. Uh, Atul, you were mentioning about your program, that Samuhik program.
Samohika Shakti, correct.
So, can you elaborate more on this and how the central theme? Sorry, I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the session, but our idea is to excite the corporate social responsibility leaders to collaborate instead of going solo. So I would come to that part after your uh, uh, answer to the question about the Samuhika.
Yeah. So, Apresh, as I was saying, Samuhika Shakti is an initiative that's uh, uh, funded by H&M Foundation. And the idea is to take one audience, in this case, it is informal waste pickers only in Bangalore city. So it's a very defined boundary. And 22,500 informal waste pickers work in this area and their families. And they have lots of challenges, right? Income is not stable and certain. So there's a lot of fluctuation in that. The dignity of the work that they are doing is not very high. The communities that they live in, the children don't get the right education. So education inequity is high, and many things like that. There is no exit opportunity for people from waste pickers to go to other areas because of lack of skills in other domains as well. So what H&M Foundation really wanted to do, and what we are working together with them on the strategy for this, is how do we bring different partners that have very, very different skill set. Hasiru Dala, for example, has been working with waste pickers for so long. They are very, very deep experts in this. But if you want to build a narrative for this audience, BBC Media Action is a really good partner. On the skilling side, LabourNet has done great work. Save the Children is bringing education equity here, and things like that. We're working with various partners, bringing them together towards a singular project, singular audience, shared measurement. The goals of the project are shared as well, and everybody's work benefits the other partner as well. So they come together towards a single problem and work towards solving it. It's a 3-year phase one project that started now, and it just got launched in the middle of lockdown, actually in the middle of COVID, few months back, and now it's starting to see on ground action as well. That's what we are doing here. My real hope is that if we are able to find 1 + 1 + 1 far more than 3 because of collective action happening, I think it's a very strong case for uh, picking cause, geography, audience centric collaboratives in India's development space.
Wonderful. Now, Prashant, with your experience of bringing the VC and startup community together, and we've seen brands going solo, thinking more about their brands and their uh, corporate vision, aligning the CSR policies with their vision. How would you uh, what is your idea of bringing the corporates to the collaborative and coming to a collective goal of solving a particular issue?
See, Apresh, I think one of the challenges of the CSR folks in these corporates has been to find the right platforms which can scale, right? So they typically are faced with a portfolio that's ever expanding, because none of these initiatives that they try to support or fund scale. And this has been a big challenge in the CSR sector in India in general. I mean, if you look at the number of NGOs that there have been and how many of these NGOs really have got to any scale. And I think that can change with the idea of, scalability and platforms, which is what VCs and startups, aspire to do and build, right? So, and, uh, and we need to demonstrate some of that, as we have been able to demonstrate where a platform like Step One, for example, which is a very simple telemedicine platform that was put together in about 2 weeks, is now serving 20 plus states in this country. And all this happened in just 3 to 6 months, which is something that we have just not seen in the social sector. So so there are organizations that have been working with schools, for example, They've been working with schools for, I don't know, 2 decades, 3 decades, but have reached, maybe a few hundred schools. How do you reach, 1 to 2 lakh schools in the next 1 year? The only way to do that is through technology platforms, and these digital platforms have fortunately been built during the pandemic for urban school children, for example. Can you take these urban digital platforms and scale them in the next 2 to 3 years and not 2 to 3 decades to reach the 100 crore children in this country? Once corporates see the power of that impact, I think they will start participating and collaborating more beyond just what they've seen and what they've been able to do before.
Wonderful. Nagma, with your experience of running the collaboratives, how has your experience with been with regard to collaborating with the corporates?
Hmm. Yeah, you're asking me how has the experience being with
Working with the
corporates?
corporates, yeah.
Okay. No, so, I try as much, and Edelgive tries as much to not slot people into corporates or non-corporates, because finally, see, because and Atul and as well as Prashant will, I think, attest to that we have to look at common value instead of stakeholder identity. So even to the point that came in the chat box, that our NGOs stakeholders, of course, they are the primary stakeholders. They are the main actors, and everybody else is a facilitator. And so when we are even operating with partners, everyone is a partner and they are coming together for a value. When we are looking at corporate partnerships, we have to also understand they have multiple, concerns and multiple things that they are trying to adhere to also. Everything from budget allocations to compliance requirements to brand requirements, and we have to respect that. And in a collaboration, it's very important for when we are in corporate partnerships to understand that transparency and governance and compliance is top of the top requirements for any corporate partnership to happen, because again, they are accountable to their boards, they are accountable to governments, and they have to make their end of year targets as well. When you account for it and plan for it and include them as partners with a voice, also giving them a clear set of roles and responsibilities, things tend to get easier because they know what they're really in the mission for. When we talk about common outcomes and common measurements, which should actually be the way entire industry or entire work around development happens, it only becomes possible when you have those transparent systems that are built in, and corporate partners we have to be even more cognizant of. I found this group very, very keen on impact, but because they also need a context, it becomes a requirement of Edelgave or maybe Give India or Nudge also, that we are supposed to be the ones who ensure they have that understanding of what transparent systems look like. We just assume that everybody's got it, because we are so seeped into it. It becomes our job as collaborators or at the center of collaboration to ensure we communicate this properly. And I've understood most of the times, if you communicate things honestly and clearly, even if the targets are lesser than required, people understand, because everybody's finally human. It's usually communication becomes your first problem. And if you communicate well, things are usually okay.
And Atul, your experience working with the corporates, you mentioned that you collaborated with corporate foundations, also many corporates in the country during the COVID. Do you see the same thing happening going forward?
The same thing you mean people continue to come forward and support and collaborate? Actually, I'm very optimistic on this. I feel like there are some things, when you stretch a rubber long enough and keep it there, it permanently changes shape and form, right? It's permanently longer. I think COVID will have a long lasting impact on the sector. It is not just people will go back to exactly the same place.
Yeah.
Uh, Obviously, it won't be as urgent as it was in the middle of COVID. But the reality is that India's poverty is bigger and resources are less. So the need for collaboration is far higher now than it was ever before in the last decade, so to say. So all the hard work that the sector did and the country did in getting large number of people out of poverty, some of that is undone now. And with less resources, with all the things that are happening this year, people kind of front loaded their spending as well in terms of philanthropy. Next year, the money is going to be less. So it is even more important because there is only so much money for risk taking, for experimentation, for pilots, for learning, for experiments on the ground. And if people don't collaborate, the collective impact of philanthropic and development sector will be subpar. So I'm very bullish that, like Nagma said, there is a need for case building in this. So it won't happen naturally. There is work to be done by various stakeholders. I know many progressive CSR leaders who actually galvanize others around them and say, "Can we have a dialogue on this?" And there are many philanthropists who do that, many foundations who do that. So various actors are doing that in their own way. And I'm sure organizations like Edelgive and others who have this as their sort of main role, right, in terms of bringing collaboratives together, will also take a lead in building the narrative building, and different players will play their own role in that. So I'm very optimistic that you'll see a lot more collaboration going forward than we saw even pre-COVID.
Wonderful. Before we take final inputs from all of you, uh, we can take some questions. It is Archana. Oh, you already answered that question. So my question to every one of you, give us some reasons as to why it's appropriate to collaborate. I heard from you scalability, diverse knowledge, then Nagma's transparency, accountability, and impact assessment, then Atul's collective action and wisdom. We got another question. Can you suggest? Can we take some questions, please? I don't think we have questions coming in. So can we have final words from all of you? Starting with you, Prashant.
Yeah, Ramesh, it's been a great session. Thank you for hosting this. I will just summarize uh, just a couple points. One, I I think the um, area of social startups and the impact that socially inclined startups can provide is just starting out in our country. So they will emerge, I think, a very new intersection of uh, new funds and new entrepreneurs who are wanting to spend more of their entrepreneurial energy on social themes moving forward. And I'm really hopeful that that will create kind of a very large catalytic and snowball impact in the social sector, and we will solve problems, intractable problems that have uh, been, our bane for the last few decades. Uh, and I think the power of data and technology will accelerate some of this. This has happened in a few cases in some of the governmental platforms like Aadhaar, but I don't think it has still created any tangible results in areas like environment or education or livelihood. There have been, small pilots where technology has made an impact, but really the next decade is going to be about harnessing this entrepreneurial energy to solve some of these large societal problems.
Thank you very much, Prashant. Nagma?
So I'm very high on collaboration. Like I said, we've done it enough times now to know that what we can do together, we can just not do alone. Case in point, the first time we started a collaboration, we were very tentative. There was very few role models ahead of us on how to do it. So it was an education project. It is still running, with in 7 districts with multiple corporate partners and NGOs on the ground. And because things went right, because they were designed for multi-stakeholder partnership, we could escalate, or we could just multiply the program from working with 25,000 children to 1.5 million children, all in a matter of 14 months. And that's what a power of a good collaborative can done. But I also want to say here that collaborations have to be done with a lot of humility. As great as good responses and good results can, we have all to come together also completely knowing that things can fail, and we should all be okay with that, because collaboratives are new to India. Being okay with the risk that they come with should also be something that we are cognizant of when we enter this. So plan for success, plan for growth, but factor in that we are in a risky, we are taking risks because we are working with issues that have been seeped into our systems for decades and sometimes centuries. Knowing that, it's been fantastic that if more and more people have started working on collaboratives, more and more people have started functioning around them. And probably one of the few good things that is coming out of COVID is that people are eager to join hands and see what we can do that can reduce the trauma that is going on in this country and all over the world. So I'm very high on it, and there are great examples like we are seeing on this panel also on how things can be done right. And if you plan for that, I think a lot of good can happen in the coming years.
Thank you. Um, Atul, your final words, please.
Well, I think nothing materially more to add than what I said before. I think the only thing I would say is there was a comment on stakeholders, right? If people come together, are they also stakeholders? And Nagma made a comment that nonprofits are at the center and not just can they be one of the stakeholders, the primary stakeholders. I think that the way the development sector conversations are, and there's another question that was there which I responded, which asked about can social enterprises be included in the dialogue and in the sector. So I think my first call out here is that we need to start seeing development sector more broadly as various people who come together to make development happen.
Wonderful.
Somebody said, what is the role of government in poverty? Government obviously is a primary stakeholder of solving for the problems of society, right? So government is important. Markets are also important. Just because somebody is a for-profit legal entity doesn't mean that they don't do development. It is not a private agenda for, say, only non-profits, right? So there are non-profits, there are for-profits, there is government, there are also academia that informs, there are researchers. All of them have a role to play in development, and we need to have a very inclusive dialogue with all actors coming together to solve for the most important constitution, which is like the people who we are trying to work with on the ground. So that's my first comment to broaden the conversation and definition of what we mean are the development actors and stakeholders. Second is unlike for-profit or market problems that are relatively less multidimensional, non-profit sector problems are far more, wicked in nature, right? And there is no right or wrong answer in wicked problems. There are only better or worse answers. And when there is so much ambiguity on what is right and what is not right, the only way is to learn together, collaborate with each other, and you shorten the learning much, much more. You spend less money in learning, you take higher risk, you innovate more, you're more creative together. So it's a very strong believer in working together towards the problems that are unfortunately not seeming to disappear. That's about it.
Wonderful. So there is a saying in Sanskrit, Sanghe Shakti Kalau Yuge. Collaboration is power in the current times. we've been living in a very difficult circumstances. 2 days from now, the vaccines are going to be delivered across the cities, but I hope everybody is safe, well. But this has also, the pandemic has also given us opportunities to come together, come closer to serve the humanity. We have seen Ashish could not join because of certain reasons, but with three amazing people, we have seen how what can be achieved by collaborating together, coming together. With this, I would end this session. If there is any question, please feel free to ask before they sign off. Catalysts we needed to help forge such large scale collaborations. This question is for Nagma.
What is the question for me? Would catalysts be needed
What
to
were
help forward such a large scale?
what catalysts we needed to help collaboratives?
All right, depends on what we call what we're saying when we're saying catalyst. I've really found that yes, you need certain actors to be taking leads. We have been one of them, like Atul said, and now what Give India and Nudge are doing are one of them. What do we really mean by catalyst? When multiple stakeholders come together, there needs to be at least somebody who's willing to give. See, the secret sauce in a collaboration is that you must be okay with giving up some power, right? Because when more than two people are sitting in dialogue, everyone can't have their way 100% of the time. So there has to be at least one player that becomes the oil in the machinery. And that for me is the catalyst. We play this role here. Atul is playing this role in H&M. And we do need those catalysts. But to give them some form of shape, that it means that you must be an intermediary, or it means you must be an X, Y, and Z, would be defeating the purpose of what we say catalyst should be in a dialogue. Every collaborative needs catalyst, and we can all take the role of the catalyst if we choose to be the one who brings reasonability, good processes, and good design into the behavior of more than two people in a common dialogue. I think it starts from there. And because India is, like I said, an under nurtured market as far as collaboratives are concerned, hopefully in 2, 3 years' time, I will reverse this statement and say, yes, we are really there at the thick of it. We should be okay with making small dialogues, waiting for them to become big, taking some risks, okay with not achieving monthly, quarterly, yearly targets. This is the role that you play to make sure that your mission moves on to the next level and multiple people can get value out of what we've started. So yes, we need catalysts and we can all be catalysts.
I would like to end the session. Thank you very much. Ms. Nagma Mula, Mr. Prashant Prakash, Mr. Atul Satija. I hope we would be benefiting uh, in the years to come from you all with your knowledge, with your passion and commitment to serve the humanity. Thank you very much.